A client wanted to progress a task downstream from out-of-sequence progress but encountered difficulties. Here's a look at what happened and why. Primavera P6 has 3 ways of handling relationships when scheduling progressed activities. Retained logic. Progress override. Actual dates. The client's issue was that the respective tasks' projected finish date was later than they wanted to indicate. We know how retained logic progresses the remaining duration of an out-of-sequence task. Its predecessor's logic is maintained or retained. But how do P6 and the retained logic schedule setting handle task progress downstream from an out-of-sequence task? This video demonstrates how P6 handles the progression of tasks downstream from an out-of-sequence task when the schedule option is retained logic. Let's define some terms. A task is downstream of a predecessor task if it connects to the predecessor task in an unbroken chain of relationship links. Out-of-sequence progress is when a successor activity begins before its predecessor is fully implemented. The classic example is 2 tasks connected by a finish-to-start (FS) relationship, and the successor task begins before the finish of the predecessor task. In FS relationships, the predecessor task must be completed before the commencement of the successor task. In the blog Options for Scheduling Progressed Activities in P6, we discussed the 3 ways P6 Professional handles this out-of-sequence progression. Let's show how P6 handles the remaining duration of tasks with out-of-sequence progress for retained logic. Figure 1 displays out-of-sequence progress for 2 tasks connected by an FS relationship when retained logic is the selected scheduling option for progressed activities. In this demonstration, Task B begins out of sequence, and before the conclusion of its predecessor, Task A, Task B's progress violated the FS relationship with its predecessor. Task B began but was not completed by the data date or status date. Because the schedule option is retained logic, the remainder of Task B is scheduled to honor that FS linkage with its predecessor. So the earliest the remainder of Task B can begin is after the completion of Task A. Note that in this situation, Task B is the immediate successor to Task A, and the relationship between tasks A and B is the decisive relationship for the retained logic schedule option. Let us consider the scenario of a task downstream from the out-of-sequence task. Our demonstration project schedule is in this figure. This figure has an out-of-sequence, task R1090, its downstream successor is task R1100. Task R1090 began and was completed out of sequence with its predecessor, task R1070. Although task R1100 is not the immediate successor to R1070, it still looks to honor the FS relationship between task R1070 and its successor, task R1090. With this observation, we consider the client's dilemma. In this figure, we show the client's problem. Our client wants to schedule R1100 in sequence with its predecessor, R1090, but before the remaining early finish of R1070, which is August 12, 2025 at 4 p.m. The current finish date of task R1100 is August 14, which follows the August 12, 2025 at 4 p.m. remaining early finish of R1070. The client wants to show a task R1100 projected finish date of August 7. Task R1100 has a % complete type of physical and 50% progress. For this operation, the % complete type must be physical. Here displays the schedule after the scheduling computation. Current start date of task R1100 is August 13 at 8 a.m., immediately following the remaining early finish of task R1070, which is August 12, 2025 at 4 p.m. That was not our intention. The current finish of task R1100, bottom details status tab, and finished field, aligns to match the remaining early start of task R1100, which is August 13, 2025 at 8 a.m., and not our objective. Our client wants task R1100 to be finished by August 7, 2025 at 4 p.m. From this demonstration, we conclude that with retained logic, not only does the remaining duration of the out-of-sequence task honor the FS relationship with task R1070, but also the downstream successors of this out-of-sequence task honor this same FS relationship. In our scenario, this relationship connects task R1070 to R1090 along the linkage chain to these downstream tasks. From this demonstration, we learn that you must track the remaining early finish of the out-of-sequence task's predecessor, as this determines the remaining early start of successors downstream. Our client still wants task R1100, in our demonstration, to come before the remaining early finish of task R1070 on the Gantt chart and activity table. A practical solution is to remove the decisive relationship, for retained logic, and reconnect tasks R1070 and R1090 with a start-to-start relationship and positive lag. Here displays these changes in an updated schedule, and the desired August 7, 2025, at 4 p.m. finish of task R1100. So in our client's true schedule situation, components A, task R1100, and B, task R1110, can be installed before the conclusion of procurement system and components, task R1070. This implies that the delivery of components for tasks A, task R1100, B, task 1110, and C, task 1120, are independent of each other, and perhaps, it is better to divide task R1070 procurement system and components into 3 separate silo procurement efforts.